Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan, and today I want to talk to you guys about what is, in my opinion, the most lethal Special Forces team in Star Wars, the Republic Commandos. And just in case you aren't sure what I mean when I say lethal, I mean direct action, kicking down doors, and taking out enemies. We'll be breaking this video down into separate subjects that will look at individual factors that make the Clone Commandos better than the rest. Jango Fett was chosen as the template for the entire clone army after careful consideration by Darth Sidious and Darth Tyrannus. Legends say that when Darth Tyrannus was still a Jedi Master, he fought in the Battle of Galadron against Jango Fett and the true Mandalorians. Although all of Fett's men were killed and he was eventually defeated, he had managed to kill 5 Jedi with his bare hands. Now, the most skilled Jedi could foresee incoming blaster bolts from multiple locations on a larger battlefield. Even the most middling Jedi would be powerful enough to sense the punches and kicks coming from a foe. But somehow Jango Fett, through pure tenacity and skill, was able to overcome such hurdles without even the help of his armor or any weapons. Genetically speaking, Jango Fett definitely was not a bad choice for creating an entire clone army. The Clone Commandos were actually a bit different from the average clone trooper, genetically speaking. You see, before the Kaminoans created the standard clones, they did several different experimentations with the Fett DNA. One of the first prototype clone classes that was created was the Null-class ARC Trooper. These commandos had enhanced Fett DNA, which made them more intelligent, had better perception, and also gave them a photographic memory. They were physically enhanced to be larger, faster, and stronger than the average trooper as well. Unfortunately, these modifications to the Fett DNA were not all that stable, and half of the Null class died during the cloning process. The ones that survived exhibited erratic behavior and increased independence. They were extremely capable warriors, but didn't do so well in a traditional military hierarchy. Republic Commandos were a dialed-down version of the Null class, more stable than the Nulls, but at the same time far more creative and independent than the standard clone troopers. This balance made the Republic Commandos very receptive to training and working alongside other units. But what really separated the Commandos from everyone else was their training. First, the Clone Commandos were grouped at birth into pods of 4, modeled after the native Iowa hunting pods. While most clones trained in simulators, the Clone Commandos oftentimes conducted live fire exercises to familiarize themselves with battlefield conditions. Along with their basic training, Clone Commandos specialized in direct action, CQC, hostage retrieval, and also infiltration behind enemy lines. The clones ate, slept, and trained, and generally hung out as a 4-man team at all times. The training process took 9 to 10 years, and so by the time the Republic Commandos were combat ready, they intimately knew how each member of their team would operate and think, making them uncannily in tune with each other. Although they weren't as capable as a Null class in a one-on-one situation, a team of Republic Commandos could most likely defeat a team of Null class ARCs and easily take out much larger formations of regular clones. Each member of the Clone Commando team was cross-trained in a variety of different skills, but usually specialized in 1 or 2 specific skills. A commando pod included a heavy weapons specialist, a marksman, a squad leader, and an engineer/tech guy. Unlike the clone troopers, the Clone Commandos were trained by 100 warriors specially selected by Jango Fett himself. Known as the Kol Valdar, which meant those who no longer exist in Mandoa, these were mostly Mandalorian fighters that had completely discarded their former lives and often faked their deaths to take part in this long-term assignment. Every one of these trainers watched over 100 commandos, and they imparted these commandos with their own unique values, training, and skills. Because the Republic Commandos had no other family than their pod and fellow commandos, in many ways their teachers became a father or mother figure to them. Out of the 100 trainers, 75 of them were Mandalorian, and they would end up teaching their charges Mandalorian culture and their language. Mandalorian culture had evolved over thousands of years as one of the most formidable warrior cultures in the galaxy. Most of the Mandalorians chosen by Fett also came from the true Mandalorian mindset, which focused on honor and brotherhood. There were no Death Watch or more chaotic factions of Mandalorians involved in the training of these commandos. Records show that during the war, Mandalorian-trained commando units usually suffered lower casualty rates, and they were generally better performing and also had much higher morale. After all, Mandalorians loved war and fighting above all else. It was a perfect culture to be paired with these commando teams. Now, the Katarn-class commando armor was probably one of the best pieces of kit ever built. Weighing around 20 kilograms, it provided complete full-body coverage. It was made of a heavily reinforced Null-class composite, which is far thicker than what was usually used on clone trooper armor. The Katarn armor also was fully sealed and had emergency oxygen for around 20 minutes. Built into the knuckle plate of the armor was a hidden vibroblade, which was a very Mandalorian-esque design. One of the easiest ways to recognize a clone commando is by the large, bulky backpack on their back. These backpacks were basically a walking armory and held multiple types of ammunition for the commando's modular blasters, along with explosives. There was also an oxygen tank in the backpack, along with heavily encrypted communications equipment that was very useful for behind enemy lines missions. There was also a Bacta dispenser, which greatly increased an individual's healing abilities. This allowed commandos to stabilize otherwise life-threatening wounds in the middle of a battle. The helmet worn by the commandos came with an advanced HUD, which featured a library of almost every weapon and armor model in the galaxy. Most of the weapons could be integrated into the armor system, allowing the Republic commandos to target things through their HUD. It's not really that easy to use a scope or even iron sights when you have a large, bulky helmet on. The visors were also able to enhance images by zooming in, and also they were able to increase light intake to allow for night vision. The HUD could also monitor the integrity of the suit's armor, the health of the wearer, and of course the shields. Because Republic commandos were oftentimes expected to fight behind enemy lines with very little support and completely outnumbered, their armor was designed to take multiple hits and regenerate thanks to the built-in shield. Republic commandos were able to survive explosions and even direct hits from anti-material rounds and continue fighting. Now, like the Republic commandos' armor, their weapons were also designed to handle a variety of different situations. The DC-17M interchangeable weapon system was a blaster rifle, sniper rifle, grenade launcher, all in one package, and also at the same time much lighter than the bulky DC-15. This also meant it had 3 different types of ammunition. The blaster rifle configuration fired ion pulse projectiles out of a side-mounted mag, while the sniper rifle configuration fired corals, which were actually similar to what came out of a bowcaster. There was also a minimalistic 2-step electromagnetic scope attachment that magnified 10 times and 20 times. The third configuration fired anti-armor grenades, and later on carried a special breaching grenade. The C-17M was also modified with the PAP non-lethal projectile system for urban combat situations where a lot of civilians could be involved. The DC's versatility and size made it easy to carry and perfect for a wide range of different types of operations. The reconfiguration of the weapon was quick and second nature for the clone commandos, who had trained with this weapon since birth. As a last resort, they were also equipped with the DC-15S sidearm. While the DC-17M was small enough for most CQC situations, the DC-15S was a great last resort weapon. If ammunition ran low, the energy cells in the DC-15S were rechargeable. This did decrease the firing rate of the weapon, however. The clone commandos were usually briefed and trained to use all available weapons on the battlefield, including many Confederacy models. Although there was a special heavy weapons demolition guy on the team, every member of a commando squad was also equipped with detonators, ion grenades, concussion grenades, along with breaching charges. The Republic commandos weren't really focused on stealth or foreign internal defense or intelligence gathering. They were chosen for missions where firefights were guaranteed to start, which is why they carried a backpack full of weapons and explosives with them everywhere they went. The first deployment of clone commandos in combat was disastrous. The Jedi generals at the Battle of Geonosis deployed the entire clone commando division, roughly 10,000 men, as frontline soldiers during the Battle of Geonosis. Now, we've done several videos about how terrible and wasteful the Jedi generals' tactics were during this battle, but to sum it up, they launched a massive frontal charge over completely flat terrain with no cover against droids that were heavily fortified. In these type of situations, survival was really up to luck and not skill. And so entire commando teams were wiped out by enemy artillery or falling debris from the battle up in the sky. Some commando teams were sent ahead of the rest of the invasion squad to secure and disrupt important Geonosian facilities before the battle started, but the majority of the clone commando forces was wasted as standard infantry. A startling 50% of clone commanders were killed in this disastrous opening battle of the Clone Wars. It comes to no surprise many clone commandos started developing a very negative view of the Jedi from then on. Still, the commandos were very loyal, and they functioned at a much higher level than almost any other unit within the clone army. They were sent on covert operations across the Outer Rim in the early days of the war when the Separatist invasion had caught the clone army off guard. Oftentimes, the Republic commandos could achieve the same mission objectives that were usually taken on by entire invasion fleets and expeditionary forces. Although widely respected and looked up to by most of their clone trooper brothers, some clones like the 2nd Airborne Company were quite antagonistic towards the Commandos because of their Mandalorian culture. The 2nd Airborne had suffered high casualties fighting against the Mandalorian protectors. As the war went on, the Commandos started mingling more with the rank-and-file clones and started spreading their Mandalorian culture to them. This was generally allowed by Republic officials because the combat records proved that Mandalorian clone units generally performed better in combat. But due to the very dangerous nature of the Clone Commandos missions, they suffered huge amounts of casualties as the war went on. Near the end of the war, many teams had replacement clones in their ranks made up of normal clones. Around the period where the Republic transitioned into the Empire, many Mandalorian clone commandos deserted the Empire and fled to Mandalore. These more independent-minded clones had become disillusioned after seeing so many of their brethren die in combat for what many saw as a pointless war. Some of the Republic Commandos would continue serving as Imperial Commandos and were mainly tasked with hunting down Jedi, which survived Order 66. So, as you can see, the Clone Commandos were not the best individual soldiers, but the way they were trained and the kind of equipment they were given and their mentality made them the best tactical teams that the galaxy had ever seen. Well guys, let me know in the comment section below what you think. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button down below. Also, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.